Welcome back to Words with Walner. We're glad that you're here with us today. And of course, we're here with John Walner. And we're going to be a little more casual today and talk about a lot of the things that John enjoys about Chicago. So, but before we go into that, I want to find out a little bit more about what you've been up to, John. I know you made a trip down to see Crisp, and tell us more about that trip.
Wait, first I want to talk about the Super Bowl, because I had never been to a Super Bowl before.
Oh, okay.
And there was the Waste Management Golf Open, which is it's really a tournament for the people, where everyone, gets crazy and cheering and loud, and they have 40,000 people on one hole. It's the most attended golf tournament. And it's like the live tournament's supposed to be fun, and there's music, and everyone's wearing shorts.
Yeah.
And this kind of equals that. So I went to the Waste Management Open and the Super Bowl, and it was fun because I saw Snoop Dogg and this guy G-Eazy. Here I am, a 60-year-old guy going to all these, fun concerts. The whole city was practically taken over by the NFL, and wherever you went, there was rappers and DJs and bands. Shaquille O'Neal put on a show, and then when you got, and the NFL made a village kind of outside the stadium. They did all these fun activities for the fans, see all the Super Bowl rings, the trophies. Yeah. And I went to the Hall of Fame dinner, and I met Marcus Allen and Tony Dorsett, Joe Klecko, the newest admittee to the Hall of Fame, Tim Brown, Heisman Trophy winner, Super Bowl champ. You met Joe Theismann.
Cool.
So that was fun.
Yeah. And
all the activities, you just feel like the NFL has made it fun and an event like this. And then I saw one of the greatest football games of my life. Yeah,
it's just a huge marketing event, right? I mean, the marketing there was just overwhelming, I'm sure.
One of the most popular hotels in all of Scott's, a real hip hotel where it says on their website, "Do not come here Thursday through Sunday if you don't like noise and frivolity," or something is on their website. So Pepsi took over this whole hotel, and they covered the swimming pool with boards. They put a huge stage up, and that's where I saw this young rapper G-Eazy.
Wow.
So that was a huge marketing event for Pepsi. Where's my huge marketing event for Walner Law? We're right here. We're at a podcast at Fortress headquarters, and we're trying to crush Words with Walner. Let the public know what it's like to be a personal injury lawyer and how I'm, I'm on your side because I'm in the community, and I want to have, live life and give you the opportunity to have a better life if you've been in an accident.
Yeah. Well, you spent some time learning more about what other law firms are doing to run their law firm. And what are some valuable things that you learned when you were with?
So I joined a professional group with 84 lawyers across the country who get together 4 times a year. And for example, in this recent event we had, it was about, hiring the best talent, keeping the best talent, where the best talent is, a vision for your law firm, following a vision of your life and how you can, what are your core values? What do you see the future is? Where do you see yourself and how to get there through marketing and network and promotions of yourself and your abilities.
Anything you want to share that came up for you and from Walner Law?
It was interesting. There was a lawyer in the South who has 2,000 billboards in Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, and he shared that how he got his biggest cases was going to Alabama football games and giving out food and buttons and swag, and going to Walmart parking lots and giving away $50 gift cards to everyone that goes into the Walmart. May your life be a blessing.
Mm-hmm. So are you going to start doing that in Chicago? Maybe go to a Bears game, Northwestern.
Absolutely.
Those are some opportunities, but that's pretty cool. And so you get to learn a lot about what around the country, what everybo's doing. Of course, you probably have some similarities with anybody that's in more of an urban market like Chicago, with some of the things that they're doing, and the things that they're doing to retain employees and things like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, it's exciting just to hear what lawyers are doing in Orlando, Miami, LA, Phoenix, Nevada, Houston, New Orleans. And so it's interesting what everyone does to let the public know that they'd be the best attorney for you. And pretty much everyone is doing the exact same thing. So it's interesting how people approach what they think is the best things for themselves.
Okay.
A lot of mimicking other areas of our country.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see the young people who came into the market with no money, that want to pay a professional big money to build their practices. That was exciting to hear what young people in their 30s are doing to like crush Columbus, Ohio, or to crush Buffalo, New York, Cleveland, Ohio, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. Young people getting into a market, taking on the big guys that have been there for 50 years, who they seem to have dominated their market, but going into niche practices of law. And how would they get the public to be attracted to them when their message would seem to be drowned out by radio and TV and billboards? And I was excited and turned on by their motivation to not let that deter them in life. And I think I learned my most from them. To get that excitement back, that motivation, that excitement for life back, and give me motivation, to come back and try some of what they're doing in the United States.
And I'm sure people want to know what you're doing. And, you're well known. You've really established yourself here in Chicago. And if you're somebody young, you want to learn from you. Like, what did you do to get to where you're at now? And I'm sure you were able to share some of that information too.
The most things that people wanted to know from me, when you go into your breakout groups and your networking events, after you hear speakers from across the company, they're professionals in marketing, they want to hear from me how we really run the cases, how when we get a case, what happens next? What computer software do we use to manage the case? How do you manage workflow? When the cases come in, how do the documents get fed into your system? How do you become paperless? A lot of the convention was about working remotely, what's going on in the United States. People don't want to come in the office. They want to take Fridays off. They want to come in only for 3 days. How do you build office culture? Do you not care about office culture? Do you want to put all your one firms did away with their office and they're all in the Philippines? How do you want to work remotely to bring workers, have all your workers in another country? But most importantly, want to know processes, which was interesting. Now you get a case in, what happens to the case, who works in the case, is the case worked on with a lawyer, a paralegal, how big's your team, how big's your section, and are they divided by complexity of the case, or the case is simple? A repetitive tax being sent to Philippines, record ordering, why don't you go to the Philippines or India for those? Why do you care if you're building office culture with someone that's doing repetitive tasks? Talking about buying law firms, selling law firms, how do you grow? Do you buy other law firms? What's the point of owning your law firm anymore when hedge funds or Ps, private equity firms, could come in and buy you and do your back office better? Is that true or not true? Don't you need a culture? Don't you need, when it comes down to it, we're not selling widgets here. These are people's lives that have been victims of malpractice, or they've been paralyzed in truck accidents, or they've slipped and fallen, have a traumatic brain injury. Isn't it still people we're caring about? Isn't it still people that we're looking out for?
Yeah, before we get into a couple other things, you bring up a really good point that I want you to just talk about a little bit. I mean, have you noticed any difference, or do you hear about any difference from, at least on the client side, because there is such an upswing of these private equity hedge funds that are funding these law firms in every major city? Do they have the same type of service, do you think? And have you gotten any, in the industry, has there been any feedback of the drawback of that type of a system?
I'll tell you this. I'd rather go to an office and order pizza, take my employees to a Cubs game or a Bulls game, or go to Grant Park and hear a concert, and go to the office for a purpose, to help people, but have fun with those people that are around me, and to get them on board to your vision and maybe better their lives. So when the company comes in, for example, there's a large law firm in the United States called Morgan & Morgan that comes into your city, advertises on your behalf. There's a kind of a fee split, and they put all their advertising muscle behind you. And therefore, what happens now? Now you have 1 million cases. What's going to happen to these cases? Morgan & Morgan doesn't teach you what to do with all these cases or how to handle them. And could you go bankrupt. Like you are now having all these cases and not handling them, and the clients could just fire you for
Yeah.
failing to pay attention to why you really became a lawyer. But on the other hand, it's a business.
Yeah.
And these firms are providing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars behind them in their experience and their marketing efforts, and you don't have to come out of your pocket anymore. And that's a relief. You never have to worry about making payroll again or spending your money on marketing to your clients, whether they be in podcasts like this or Facebook or Instagram ads, billboards or TV commercials. Like, hey, there's a big, Walner law. We have to provide our own money to ourselves. We make our money because we've been professional with our clients. We've given them dignity, respect, care, and compassion. Would that slip away if a big firm owned me?
Possibly.
Like, when I'm not worried about marketing dollars, if we're, spending an incredible amount of money here, I no longer have to spend that money. Would I take my foot off the pedal, not have to work as hard, not have to sweat and worry if someone's providing this money for me? I've never experienced it. Of course,
we're glad. I mean, the one thing that you are doing, and I think it's resonating with people, is that you are Chicago's personal injury law firm, and that is one thing that we're going to continue to tell that story for you out into the public. That you are local, and whatever we can do to remind people that you are local, that you can help, that you're here in Chicago, you live in Chicago, you're all about Chicago, and that's going to segue us into. Really, what we want to talk about is, let's get to know John Walner just a little bit better and what Chicago means to John. So right off the bat.
I do want to tell you one thing.
Yeah.
That I'm not worried about paying my money back to hedge funds and to private equity funds and sell yourself short because I have a duty to the hedge fund that's running me. Like, hey, we want our money. We need to make our quarterly profits. Give us our money back now. So I am running the company with my own money. It's my name, my reputation on the line for you. I will never sell you short or do anything to harm the total economic value that you deserve for your lost wages, for your pain, for your suffering, but to take care of your families that has been stolen from you for your diminished working power. You're no longer can drive the forklift for U.S. Steel, and now your family is suffering. You're no longer in their profit and pension plan at U.S. Steel, and no corporation is going to tell me how much to settle your case for, what to do, and who to fire and hire. We're in it for you, not to, make money for the hedge fund or the private equity firm that owns me. I'm not owned by anybody.
All right, let's go into Chicago.
Because you brought that subject.
Yes, let's, all right, right off the bat. We know you like to eat, so tell us your 3 favorite restaurants in Chicago as of today.
First of all, I want to say this. I love Red Hot Ranch. I love the cheeseburgers there, the fries. They make the fries right in front of you. They put them in the shredder. They cook them, and they grind the meat themselves, make it right in front of you, and it's delicious. It could be horrible for you, but I like Al Cheval. I like it. Great cheeseburgers, great fun, and I think it's between Red Hot Ranch and Al Cheval in Chicago, the 2 best cheeseburgers that you can have. Where do I love to go for steak? A Caesar salad, a seafood salad. You're going
to take your wife out for a nice dinner. Where are you going to go?
You're celebrating an anniversary. You're celebrating a birthday. You're just celebrating something in life. Hands down, Joe's. Joe's Seafood and Steak here on Grand Avenue in Wabash here in Chicago.
One other location, that's in Miami, right?
In Vegas.
Oh, in Vegas, that's right. Yeah.
You go in, everyone's wearing a white dinner jacket, all the staff, black slacks. They look great, and there's a buzz. You could go to there's a famous steakhouse in Chicago, Gibson's. You walk in, it's a mess. It's chaos. They're just stuffing people all over. You're on top of each other. It's uncomfortable. And the waiter comes over and goes, "What do you want?" "Double baked potato, Caesar salad, crab cakes." And you're like, "Dude, let me chill. I'm just with these guys.
Yeah.
Come on, that's what you guys want. What do you guys, bourbon, scotch? What can we get you?"
Yeah.
It shows they make you fake it. At least make you feel special. What do you want? We could do a Dover sole, make it right next to your table. And even if you've been there 50 times and they know the routine, at least they fake it a little bit and,
Yeah.
and say, what can we do for you? It's like, you're special. We're going to make it right for you. Let us do it. Let's change out your napkins from white to black. They pull your chair out. They say, you are our guest and we are grateful for you. So if you like there's nothing wrong with loving a scene. There's nothing in Chicago like you go to Gibson's, eat it outside, because you could go to Tavern on Rush or Lux Bar or Carmine's. So, if you're coming from out of town and you're only here for the weekend, you don't want to go to Joe's because it's great food, great desserts, but it's not near anything.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to, for example, a Gibson's in Chicago and you want action and fun, it's all outside. Maybe there's 100 people in the restaurant, but there's 500 people in the streets having fun, and it's a scene of just a great scene, great attitude. Everyone's enjoying life, and it's right on the lake. I mean, a couple blocks from the lake, and there's a ton of things to do right there. So there's
so many options.
But I've lived here my whole life, so I know what I like. I know what you have fun. Before I go to a Bulls or a Blackhawks game, I'd love Tufano's or the Vernon Park Tapa Grill in Vernon and Racine. They've been there 100 years. Sauce is 100 years old. You come in and you're eating your favorites, and they're constantly perfect. Whether you get the lemon chicken or the eggplant parmesan, it is a recipe that has served them well for 100 years. They got this guy Joey DeBuono that owns it, and his family owns it. His daughters work there. His sister works there. They got a girl Judy Schwartz and a waitress there for 25 years.
Yeah.
Whether he knows you or not, got you. How many? 2, got you. How many? 4, got you. 5, got you.
Yeah.
And he brings you to the table. It's like you're special, but it's a little house in the middle of a neighborhood, and it's cool. You got La Scarola. I love the Italian La Scarola.
You go to Richard's beforehand.
Right. Richards. Oh, if you want to come to Chicago, everyone that's listening, if you want to smoke a cigarette inside and eat black chuckles, you go to Richard's Bar. But next door is this amazing restaurant, La Scarola. Feels old school.
Yeah.
It's just a cool atmosphere for genuine, authentic Italian restaurant. And then if you're here in the summer, you got Piccolo Sonio right next door with a gigantic backyard with trees and beauty, and no one would know it from the outside. You got this little restaurant,
Yeah.
and then you go in, and could see 200 people in the backyard.
Yeah.
It's cool because, right in the middle of the city, in the high rises and the highways.
Yeah.
You have this
one of the best al fresco eateries in Chicago.
There is no. That's it. That's the best outside dining in Chicago in the summer.
Yeah.
Right. So I love it there, but I love tacos.
All right, you want to go down the Mexican route? All right.
Now, right here, I'm just saying. What do I like?
Your favorite?
What do I like?
tacos?
Malted milk duds. Malted milk balls, milk duds, popcorn, cheeseburgers, fries, ice cream at Margie's, candy at Margie's.
What's the best tacos in Chicago?
The best tacos to me, Antique Taco and La Pasadita. Two different, vibes.
Yeah.
You got Antique Taco on a real hip street in Chicago on Milwaukee Avenue that has 50 restaurants, cool hip stores. We're talking about Bucktown, Wicker Park, hip and happening, young.
Yeah.
And Antique Taco gives you really high-end meats and in the tacos in a cool atmosphere. And then you have La Pasadita. This has got to be, 50 years old on Ashland near Division. You go in, what do you want? Steak or chicken? That's it. Steak or chicken, cilantro, some onions, and here it is.
Nothing fancy, but
nothing
it's the best.
fancy,
Yeah.
and everyone in there is wasted and happy and
That's
fun,
awesome.
and it's solid.
Yeah.
But now hot dogs. Chicago's
All
known
right,
for
let's
its
talk hot dogs.
Let's talk about hot dogs,
All
right?
right.
You go hot dogs, Wiener Circle, hands down the most fun restaurant.
Yeah. What happens there?
What happens
Crazy.
there?
For people that may not know.
The public that don't know,
prepared.
you could watch 100 YouTube videos on Wiener Circle. What do you want? Too late. Next. You wanted a char dog? No. You've misbehaved. Next person. And it's a show and it's fun, but and it's on the way to Wrigley Field.
A lot of vulgarity.
A lot of vulgarity, a lot of swearing, get a lot of chocolate shakes. And you're on the way to Wrigley. So if you're going to Wrigley Field, you're coming in from out of town, you're going to go to see the Cubs, you're going to see the Sox, you go to the Shed Aquarium, the Field Museum. How
have to
about
be
taking
careful.
a Cubs game and go to the Wiener Circle on the way there?
You have to.
You have to. And the
It's
way
a char dog.
and on the way back, and I recommend this to anyone that comes to Chicago. You don't have to love baseball, but how about going to a stadium in the middle of a neighborhood? There's all these houses around, and then right outside Wrigley Field is what? 30 unbelievable bars with live music,
Yeah.
DJs, all outside, fun. It makes you feel alive and want to. And anyone that comes to a Cubs game says, I'm living in Chicago. That's because they haven't been here when it's 30 below in December,
Yeah.
when you can't get out of your alley because the snow's 4 feet high.
So before we go into like neighborhoods, I do want to know, outside of the neighborhood that you live in,
Yeah.
this is a tough, really tough question to decide. And I want you to really think about it. But what do you think is the best neighborhood as far as everything? Culture, restaurants, nightlife, livability, recreation, all that kind of stuff. Where would you,
I
if
just
you
have
didn't live
to
in the neighborhood that you live in now, where would you live?
Okay, first of all, it depends what age you are. You know,
Okay.
if you're young and you have no kids and you have you're just living in an apartment,
Yeah.
the best neighborhood in Chicago now, and Google made it a great neighborhood by putting their headquarters right here, is on Fulton Street, and they
Yeah.
have produced Girl and the Goat, Duck, Duck, Goat, Beatrix, every hot new restaurant. They put a hotel in called the Hawks, and they have a roof deck with a pool. You have cutting-edge hotels, cool bars, great neighborhood. They put all these, cutting-edge, like, clothes stores,
Yeah.
all to cater to where businesses want to put their companies now, where they want to put their talent. And a neighborhood sprung up around them on Randolph. So this is a neighborhood for any person that is single, guy or girl, coming to Chicago. They want to be in the hip and trendy neighborhood. This is called Fulton Market area.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're married and you got kids, there's my favorite neighborhood is around Southport, going from Belmont all the way past Addison, because you have Wrigley Field and the 50 bars and restaurants surrounding the field, but you have Southport Corridor with its great restaurants. You got Crosby's
More neighborhood
Kitchen.
type restaurants, yeah.
You have Coda de Volpe. You have a theater. There's where they have musicals and plays. You got great grocery stores. You have great infrastructure. You got the Jenny's ice cream. I love Jenny's ice cream, and then they have the tortas and it's just great and fun and everything's walkable.
Yeah.
You go to Atlanta, you got to take a car everywhere. You got to go to LA, you got to take a car. Here, if you want it all in one place with the Wrigleyville all the way to the lake, you want to take a stroll in the most beautiful part in all Chicago, our lakefront. It is right next to Wrigleyville. You go all the way to Lincoln Park Zoo. Come back and there's we have a ton of public art in Chicago, sculptures everywhere. And,
Yeah.
And
It's a great city, isn't
stroll
it?
on the bikes. You could take stand-up paddling or take a kayak out or rent a boat from many harbors. You got Navy Pier if you're a tourist to come and see on one pier, 50 restaurants,
Yeah.
the Shakespeare Theater.
Walk
Theater.
around there
But
for
if
a
you're
while,
talking
yeah.
about solid neighborhoods to go to enjoy yourself, to have
Yeah.
just a great time, you got Fulton Market, you got the Armitage Corridor, you have the Southport Corridor. These are all on the north side. Now you want to go on the south side, you have, even out west on Grand Avenue, you have Bari Foods, and you have a lot of great
South
Italian.
Loop is really up and coming. I mean, there's
Absolutely. You're
yeah.
naming neighborhoods.
Yeah.
When the mayor of the city of Chicago moved from Bridgeport, an Irish community, and he went over to what you're talking about near Soldier Field, the South Loop, all of a sudden, I do believe that if it's safe for the mayor of Chicago, and then all this, you're talking about another young neighborhood or
Yeah.
young families right
Yeah.
now. We're talking about near Soldier Field, west of Soldier Field, South Loop. Then you have venues for concerts and you get your cutting edge restaurants. And what they did is they built dense housing, but inside for the kids to ride their bike in gated communities, or they have these really cool high-rises, 50-story high-rises that are giving their residents swimming pools, 2-story gyms, Starbucks coffee,
Cool. Yeah.
pool tables.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in the high-rises
South Loop.
near Fulton Market,
Fulton Market.
in the South Loop.
Yeah.
And Chicago's just getting better and better. You turn around. on the way to work today, I saw 5 cranes. They just keep building and making
Yeah.
things better. They took the Morton Salt Factory, as you've been seeing it, and they call it the Salt Shed. And they just had Phil and friends from the Grateful Dead there performing 2 days ago.
The whole summer's booked up now in spring and just, yeah.
So they're taking old and making it great. You see this happening in Denver, they're called Lodo, and you see this happening in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And Scottsdale, but this is kind of authentic in Chicago. These are real neighborhoods. They weren't made up neighborhoods. These a neighborhood, and it was just made better by real estate developers and employers and
Open
the
businesses
entrepreneurs
yeah, sure.
made the neighborhood even better.
So you've kind of answered a lot of this,
yeah.
but what is your favorite thing about Chicago?
Straight out?
Yeah, straight out.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
It is just takes your breath away, our lakefront. The architecture.
Yeah.
It is just looking out the window and just seeing the Hancock and the high rises behind your head. And first, the beauty. This is just my life. We walk on the lake, we ride our bikes on the lake, and we enjoy the communities that give us the great restaurants that where we go to breakfast. You know, the best croissant. This Florioli, this bakery. They're making these croissants and high-end coffee. They're saying you don't have to go to Starbucks. We're going to show you better coffee. You got
Even
dark
better.
matter in Chicago all over.
Yeah.
What do I like about Chicago? The ability to go to any type of food you want: Italian, Mexican, steak, gelato. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And go into the neighborhoods and just stroll around and enjoy a cool neighborhood, a cool vibe, and it makes you feel good. Chicago, you hear about in the news, the crime in Chicago, the murdering. Where's that? Because we're not going into the bad neighborhood. We're not going to Englewood.
Yeah.
When you're coming to Chicago, you are not seeing or feeling or afraid of crime because we're going to the neighborhoods where the residents have demanded innovation, improvement, trees, better restaurants.
Yeah.
So I tell any tourist, isn't there tons of crime in Chicago? I guess there's crime anywhere, but are you going to the neighborhoods where there are crime?
Right.
Well, who's going there?
You stay clear.
Right. It's not even on your radar or your map.
Yeah. So you talked about the music scene in Chicago, and there's a ton of venues. We have a new venue that's opened up, but I want to ask you one. I'm going to have 2 questions.
Okay.
What's your favorite band?
Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam. And number 2, what's your favorite show you've been to? And it's got to be in Chicago.
My favorite show in Chicago was Bruce Springsteen at the United Center. When he did the Rivers album, he played the whole Rivers album front to back. Because when I was a freshman in college at the University of Michigan, Bruce Springsteen came into town. He brought Bob Seger, and I'll never forget that Rivers album. And here he did the reprise. U2 at Soldier Field, even the Rolling Stones recently at Soldier Field, so much energy. The Grateful Dead, when they were here for 3 dates, they said it was never play again. They're never going to play. And they brought the lead singer, Trey Anastasio from Phish, took the place of Jerry Garcia for 3 straight days. When it was the 4th of July weekend, and they threw fireworks all over the city of Chicago, went up at the end of the concert.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
And Eric Clapton
that was
pretty
fun.
cool.
Oh, we went to Eric Clapton. We went to an Indian restaurant where they cooked Southern Indian cooking, and Joel had grown up in that food, and it was called Wazwan, and another hot area division. This is one of the hottest areas in Chicago right now, going from Ashland all the way to Western and Division. You've got 50 great restaurants, including this high-end Southern Indian restaurant. So that was so much fun. We went there on my 60th birthday. Fortress took me there. Then we went to Clapton, and we sat, 5 rows from this stage, and he was so chill, and he's sitting down and playing, and there's an Oriental rug and a carpeting, and he's just chilling. But I love Tedeschi and Chuck's, and I'm going this weekend, Saturday night. We're going to go backstage. I have a friend that is friends with the Southern Mississippi All-Stars, ZZ Top, Cheap Trick, and he's tight with Tedeschi and Chuck's, and we saw them outside in Joliet this summer, and how they're inside a small intimate theater, the Chicago Theater, and to go backstage. I love Tedeschi and Trucks.
Yeah, they're fun.
So that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they're playing Chicago Theater this weekend, right?
Yeah, well, Saturday
That's
night.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
One last question I have for you. One last one. All right. So if
I'm
somebody
proud of
came up-
Chicago. I've lived here my whole life, and I am proud to show anyone this city and bring them to different neighborhoods. A lot of New Yorkers and LA guys went to University of Michigan on my floor, and they legit. I'm a freshman. They go, what's Chicago?
Yeah.
What is it? A bunch of butcher factories and balls of hay running in the street.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I took them here, and they live here now. That's my friends I met from New York, Miami, in
Yeah,
the
that's
doors of
great.
the University of Chicago, because there's nothing like Chicago.
Nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
So if you, last question, you're kind of answering it a little bit, but what is it if somebody came to you and they said, hey, John, I'm going to move to Chicago. What advice, and I want the advice, what advice would you give them?
But first, I do want to back up and say, it's not the only great city. Because there's
it
nothing
is.
like the Village
Okay.
in New York,
All right. Yes,
San
of course.
Francisco, Golden
We're not
Gate
gonna
State
talk about
Park.
that.
Let's
We're
not
talking about
talk
Chicago.
Right.
So what advice would you give somebody that's moving here?
Move into a solid neighborhood where there's, first of all, you got to have the grocery stores and the little stores and a drugstore that is in walking distance from you. Want to be near a bus line or a train line to get everywhere in Chicago. Please move near a solid grocery store, a solid infrastructure, and transportation. Yes, you get anywhere by Uber, but you can't go great distances more quickly than the L. In Chicago, I think we have a great transportation system. I think our buses are hitting every main line to go to, whether it's LaSalle or Ashland or Lincoln or Broadway or Clark Street, to take you anywhere fast. And especially, you could take the L to Soldier Field, you could take it to Comiskey Park, you could rip up to the Wrigley Field, but also you could rip up to the airport without any problem. So come to Chicago, move to where there is transportation, where there are. Listen, I have kids. They're 30 and 27 now, but the best school. So you could meet parents of your friends. You could have a great social life in a community, because the first thing we're doing is educating our kids in the best manner possible, and you want to be around like-minded parents who are going to become your network from JK through 12th grade, and that instantly you come to Chicago, put your kids in the best school, be in the best neighborhood, because you're going to meet parents like yourself that are like-minded and enrich your life, enrich your social life. Happy social life, happy life.
That's excellent. Thanks, John. I appreciate you opening up and telling us more about your own personal opinions on the city. And I think it's a really great insight for the viewers out there. And so we do really appreciate you talking about Chicago. You can see how passionate you are about the city, and that's
You never said
really,
best
really
pizza.
important.
You never said best chicken.
Well, that's because it's all good.
We don't want to fight.
Well, that'll be in the next. We'll do that in the next episode. But for now,
Pizza and barbecue. We'll talk about next.
Yeah, right. We could talk about. Oh, there's so much we can talk about. All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and we look forward to our next podcast, which we're going to go take a deeper dive into going back on the business side, talking about truck accidents. A lot of you have talked about that, and it certainly has shown that you want more information about truck accidents. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that in our next episode. Thanks all.
Thanks, Steve.